Toyota are being difficult again, and it's like they're being run by cowboys out of Central Australia, because Toyota announced that they will not be going all electric despite the federal government's recent initiatives to boost EV adoption here in Australia, cut emissions from passenger vehicles, and improve overall well-being of Australians. This statement comes less than 2 weeks after the Australian government introduced its new national electric vehicle strategy, consisting of 3 main objectives: increasing the supply of affordable, accessible EVs, establishing the resources, systems, and infrastructure to enable rapid EV uptake, and encouraging increased EV demand. According to the Australian newspaper Canberra Times, Toyota sales boss in the country, Sean Hanley, continues to push for hybrid and fuel cell options, despite Hanley claiming he was not against battery electric vehicle technology. He says Toyota will lobby for a standard with a generous time frame that will cut pollution without cutting vehicle options. Hanley also claimed that through the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries, Toyota has represented the silent voices of hundreds of thousands of Australian consumers who use their cars for leisure, towing, and lots of other activities. However, Behad Jafari, CEO of the Electric Vehicle Council, shut down these arguments, saying EVs have been proven in other countries and are already becoming popular in Australia, obviously because they sold, I think, 3.9% of car sales had a plug on them last year. With upgraded tech enabling longer range and power, Jafari also pointed out that when we hear those arguments, what we need to pay close attention to is the economic interests of the car company. Toyota, as Australia's largest selling automaker, and I would argue they do make some of the best cars, if not the best cars, in terms of reliability and the fact that the switches always work and they work really, really well, and they're so coveted even when they're 20 years old, and they still go for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 even now for a 2003 Toyota Yaris, for example, because people know it will generally start in the morning when they want to go to work. Toyota's reluctance to go to all EVs is already costing the automaker. Some businesses haven't spent time developing electric vehicles, and they don't have a firm enough grasp on the issues. Greenpeace campaigner Lindsay Sutar also criticised Toyota's stance, saying that Australians will not put up with Toyota's call for weaker pollution standards or any delays. Sutar claimed that Toyota has stalled on pure electric cars, opting to promote hybrid and fuel cell technologies that will lock customers into paying for fossil fuels for decades to come. Pushing for petrol cars in 2023 in the middle of a climate and cost of living crisis is laughable, and Australians will not be convinced. And I would agree, it's laughable, and I'm not convinced. However, Toyota have, I think it was in April, I did do another video on this. I think it was April 2021, they did formalise an agreement with BYD to make electric cars. BYD is China's biggest electric car maker. I think Toyota maybe are just a bit late to the game, but they are showing signs that they want to. But it's just that I've also done another video on this. The sales representative and some of the top bigwigs in Australia who work for Toyota are just not keen at all. They're not keen. I think they're the sort of people that really like their old Toyota Land Cruisers, and they just think EVs, Australia's too big for the EVs, basically, is what I think. It's an opinion I've heard echoed around as I go around and I nip into Repco, for example, and I chat to one of the salespeople there, and they say Australia is too large for EVs. That's the sense I'm getting. So I just wanted to jump in for a second to say thank you very much to anybody that has thought about joining on Patreon, or anybody that has thought about buying me a coffee or becoming a YouTube member, because it touches me that people can be so generous and anybody that joins is really a part of a community, which is awesome. And you're free to get in touch to say hi and have a chat, or to get in touch if you have any questions. I'm really trying hard to make these videos my full-time job, so when I make them every day I can make them my full-time job, and it takes a huge amount of time to research them. It takes hours and hours and hours to make sure that I'm giving you the truth that maybe the mainstream media don't often give you, or at least they don't want to give you, but they can if they want to. So I try and be as unbiased as I can be, although I do like Toyota, and hopefully you are enjoying the videos. That's what I'd like to think. Despite the comments from Hanley, Toyota is planning to launch its first EV in Australia, the BZ4X SUV, before the end of the year. However, it's worth noting that the BZ4X is only one of many electric vehicles available on the Australian market. However, we do know that people here love a 4x4 Toyota. It basically looks like a posh Toyota RAV4 if you haven't seen it. So imagine a RAV4, but instead of it saying hybrid on the back, which is very common, it's just an electric one of those with a proper range, reasonably good power, and it's reasonably cheap. So it's a really good car, and I'm fairly sure it will do well here, as I think it will do well in many places, but for sure here. And then maybe when they see that it sells quite well, maybe in Australia, they might change their tone a bit. Just a guess. So many established brands, including BMW, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes, Mini, Volvo, Porsche, Nissan, Audi, LEV, blah, 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 sell electronic models, and they sold those cars in March this year, for example. But Toyota is notably absent from this list. And that's strange because Toyota is the largest selling automaker in Australia. Toyota Australia's Vice President for Sales and Marketing claimed that EVs are not yet ready for the demands of Australians. This is the guy, I do believe, that I did another video on a couple of months ago, where he had a bit of an outburst and raged on stage, while his PR people were literally visually going, stop it. He was shouting and saying stuff. He was saying Australia isn't ready for EVs. The demands aren't there, but some wonder if product research and development issues have led to the slow start. The International Energy Agency identifies electric vehicles as the key technology to decarbonise road transport and Australia's third biggest source of emissions. As the key technology to decarbonise road transport, and Australia's third biggest source of emissions is the transport sector, with transportation in Australia on track to be the largest emitting sector by the end of the decade. The country is committed to becoming more competitive globally for EV supply. New cars in Australia use 40% more fuel than in the EU and 20% more than the cars in the US, making it urgent for government officials to adopt a fuel efficiency standard, which I talked about in another video recently, and accelerate its pace towards zero-emission electric vehicles. Although Australia is planning to limit how much carbon it emits through its new strategy, as of right now, the country is next to Russia as one of the only advanced economies without a fuel efficiency standard, as I did mention that in a previous video just recently. Australia's new electric vehicle strategy includes rebates to enhance affordability, increased access to charging infrastructure, and battery recycling to promote adoption, despite Australia's recent initiatives to increase EV adoption. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it interesting. If you enjoyed it, then please click the like button for me, and please feel free to leave any thoughts at all in the comments.